Welcome everyone here and remind everyone that the workshop is being recorded. We have an apology from Alan Harris tonight, and that's all we have. Are there any comments from the notes of the previous workshop?
Just, Mark, is Alan sick or something? Because he's missed a couple of workshops, hasn't he?
Yeah, look, I understand.
Alan just after he passed on, his daughter's been quite sick, and she went home today, and she's much better. So,
oh, that's good.
I haven't heard from him. Thank you. Yeah. So he's talking to him every few days. And
yep. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that. No other comments from the notes? If not, I'll just move on. Jenny just wanted to provide some advice following the budget meeting we just had. So.
This year, everyone will get, all employees will get 9.5 instead of 9.75. Next year, everyone will be 10, 10.5, so on, up until 12% when we hit the year 1920. Okay.
That's based on because
that was discussed at the election, but that hasn't been implemented.
It hasn't been passed by the Senate. Yeah.
So that is as it is, and that is how it's framed in the year. So 9.5, next year 10, up by 0.5, all the way up to 12%.
Up to 1920, you said.
The year 1920. 2020. Oh. The year 1920.
2020.
2019, 2020.
Okay, so is everyone okay with that?
We'll have good eyesight.
Why?
2020?
No. Should move on. Okay, the first item tonight is the Regional Public Health Plan, and Brendan is here to work us through. So,
elected members may recall a discussion that was held at a workshop back in October of last year, so some time ago. I think Deborah just provided some information. Health plan in consultation with the constituents of the Eastern Health. And the intent of this workshop is to provide where we're up to with that project. It's been taking quite some time, and we've been working away in the background. It was initially intended to be finished late last year, in fact, but it is actually running over time. For those who might recall that in that October workshop, it was the reason for a regional health plan came from the requirement of the South Australian Public Health Act 2011. So it's requiring councils to develop a public health plan, and towards that end, the constituent councils of EHA have come together and are developing a plan as a collective. And obviously, EHA is well placed to actually develop that plan on our behalf. When they talk about health, they talk about it in a very broad sense of public health. And essentially, the work that's been done to date is looking at is to do a desktop review of all the council's strategic plans towards the end of developing the plan. The key aspect of the regional health plan is an advisory committee that was developed. And these are the members that actually sit on that committee, and Deb is the staff member representing this council on that advisory committee. I've actually attended one of them, so I'm sort of picking up where Deb has left off rather. And the plan is actually quite well developed. So with members from the EHA Board of Management, and the administration, and also from the constituent councils, not including Walker.
do we know why, Brendan?
I actually don't know why, no. I thought it was just
Walkerville, because they're a pain in the arse.
I believe that
they just opt out and...
I believe it's due to staffing.
I thought it's a resourcing issue,
Don't write that down. All right, it's recorded anyway.
It's recorded.
Who listens to that?
So the committee has been meeting pretty much monthly for most of the past year, and so that's actually formed the basis of a desktop review of council's plans and boards is Public Health and Wellbeing Plan, and you might recall an invitation to attend a forum that was actually held at Payneham Library and Community Facility back in April, so that's sort of one of us attended, so thank you for that, Christina.
I delegated to Christina.
So that was actually a very well attended forum, and again formed the basis of where we're up to. But this is the original plan that Deb would have actually presented to you back in October, so a long time ago. And as you can see, it was actually intended to be completed in December 2013. So we're letting you know that we're actually well behind the timelines for completing this. Indeed, there actually are some guidelines as part of the South Australian Public Health Act in terms of how often councils do need to report, and it is actually due at the end of this. It's due now to report on the current period, with the report due in September. More about that at the moment, but where we're essentially up to is we're at the we've done the stakeholder consultation, and we're at the area down the bottom there of preparation of the draft plan, and indeed a fairly comprehensive draft plan has been developed, and we're working towards these are the next steps. So some further analysis is required, and the key aspect there is to determine the appropriate level of community consultation having regard to council's consultation policy. So essentially we're heading towards having a draft report presented to council with a view to adoption and for public consultation. So these are the next steps going through, and again, this is sort of heading towards submitting the plan to the Chief Public Health Officer. So a consideration for us is, in fact, the council election, and the constituent councils have made a decision that they would rather put the plan to the new council. So that's going to delay the process even further. Essentially, we're looking to do a workshop with the draft plan in December, in early December, and then to a December council meeting for the plan to be adopted. Running a bit late with it, just letting you know that, and it's been delayed.
When did the first council come on board, the new council?
This council is actually, I think it's spoken to the first council meeting, I believe, the 25th of November.
Yeah, so conducted around then or the week before.
Yeah. To allow time for any.
You're talking about a lawful decision by a new council?
I was thinking that what it would like for a new council to come on board and have to consider and pass something as major as this in their first month. That's a tough ask. With all the other stuff they've got to do, read the Act, read this, punch that on them, and at Christmas time.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, the first council meeting, I believe, is the 25th of November.
But why does it need to?
But
I can understand why you're delaying.
The other councils essentially, that was the preference. They actually asked if it could be delayed because they wanted the new councils to
I understand that, yeah. I just think it's a heck of a load for new councils coming on
indeed,
board,
yeah.
not really knowing the Act, not knowing meeting regulations, not knowing...
Baptism of fire.
They can defer it if they're not comfortable, of course.
It would certainly be a workshop first.
Yeah, right.
I might have missed something because I was, I don't know, not paying attention, but we're not responsible for the entire health system. Just give us a sample of the things that this Act does cover and that are the responsibilities specifically of local government.
Some of the, just look through
That's the question we would ask and any new council would ask as to what's it about. It's not about running hospitals.
it's about parks and reserves and roads. It is about, the city infrastructure. It includes council's consultation processes and the ability for the community to engage with the processes of council, so that notion of health are being actively engaged within their communities. So it's a very broad health motion. It's just looking for some other examples. I've got a PowerPoint slide, but I won't put that up. And,
This thing, CEO, we at some stage would need to see what's inside this plan, and workshops would be the most appropriate method. And I take Ashley's point that there's going to be new council, but let's assume there's at least some of us will be back who can explain it to the newbies. And if they're not comfortable, then can ask for more information. But I think to start that process in November would mean it wouldn't be concluded until February.
We could have a workshop with the existing council on the assumption that a number of you will continue on.
Well, I think to gain the value of the experience of the people who've been here for nearly 4 years.
Yeah, and informing it.
And highly likely that at least some will be on the next council anyway.
Yeah. So we could probably have two bites at the workshop, a pre-council election workshop and a post. That will enable us to get a good decision in December.
I mean, the plan to date is 80% there. It's I mean, really, it's largely there, and it does include anything that's sort of different what council's doing now. In fact, council's business plan presented tonight really will form the entirety of what will be included into the health plan. Those types of activities that council completes. So there's no surprises in there, but. Yeah, absolutely open to do a workshop sooner rather than later. So the reporting requirement that I referred to earlier is that the first report relates the period from 1st of January to 30th of June, but there's understanding that with most councils, the public health plans being at various stages of development, therefore the requirements of the first report and regional public health plans will be based around the approach taken and the focus on the audit process. So again, this is sort of a bit of an update, and it's quite different from what Deb would have let you know back in October of last year.
And I think there's also, I know from our EHA board meeting, consideration of the caretaker policy start, so we can't really rush things and make major decisions. So I think the outline of having a workshop, current, and then with the incoming council, sensible.
So that makes sense. Is everyone comfortable with that?
When does the caretaker start?
September.
I think to September.
All right, so if everyone's comfortable with that, we'll schedule that workshop to occur probably in the caretaker period, and that's fine. Yep. And we'll do a post-election workshop as well with a report to council in December.
So we can do decisions right up to 11.
Okay, everyone good with that? Thanks, Brendan, for that. On now to the caretaker policy, which is topical, and I think Ginny and Kerry are going to lead us through this. What
Okay.
Okay. Do you introduce it or do you want to? You can. Okay. Yes, it's of course we're just talking about the caretaker period. 12 June on 16th of September to the conclusion of the election. That's minimum. Council can resolve to make it longer by extending the commencement date. I don't think that helps us for any reason, but it's your decision. Sometimes might want to think about doing it from the beginning of nominations. Nominations start on the 2nd of September. So that is the 16th of September is the conclusion of nominations. But to change it, it would have to be by resolution of council, which if I had the feeling you wanted to go that way, I'd do something for the next meeting.
So you're suggesting we could make it from the start of nominations on the 5th of September?
I'm suggesting that you can, but I'm not suggesting you do.
Yeah, okay. Just to understand me. Yeah. So we don't do enough as it is.
Okay, so for the caretaker policy, we had one in place for the 2010 election.
Just the conclusion of the election is when they call?
when it's declared.
Voting.
When after the so it's not after the voting, it's after the declaration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After declaration. So we have to have, by legislation, a caretaker policy, and we did have one for 2010 election, and we're just reviewing it now because that was the first one, see what we learned. But as a minimum, it has to prohibit the making of designated decisions and also prohibit the use of council resources for campaigns and using staff and equipment for campaign activity. You would have had the caretaker policy attached to your workshop program. Our strategic champion, Ashley, has been through it.
Champion.
Fine-tooth comb and given his feedback. That's been incorporated. The main changes from last time was there's more clarity around the wording on decision making, although the Act hasn't changed. And also a bit more clarification around the use of council resources. The model policy that the LGA put out was bare bones, and they did that on purpose. So not really much point. It doesn't give you much more than is in the Act. So it's really just ticking things. So we have more in our policy than they have in theirs, and I think much clearer. One thing that came from the last election, people wanted some information about social media, and there was a suggestion that that be in the caretaker policy. I couldn't find a way of including it that didn't involve every other thing, like talking to people, emailing people, briefing people. But yeah, so it's just another platform. So I didn't see how to put it in there, and the LGA have completely omitted it out of there. So
I think the LGA have got far more of a role than just to give us a bare bones policy, copy it from the Act. You'd really wonder at times why they're there, if that's the best they can do. Give them a bare bones and say, all of you do your own, rather than we as the LGA use our expertise to provide one.
I concur with what you're saying, actually. I think, quite frankly, I think the LGA is irrelevant now, and I think they should be disbanded, and I think it's a waste of money, complete waste of money.
Not sure I'd go that far.
I would.
There are a number of areas the amount of research I think they could do. The day after everybody's rolled out there and finalised their agenda, their report, annual report, they should be onto every council, get a copy, extract all of the rates and the this and the that, and they never do that. So there's so much information they could then provide to all the councils, so you could start comparing literally a week after the election. They just do nothing.
The issue of the LGA is something that we can discuss as a council separate to this discussion, and we could invite the CEO to come along and talk about their role and what they do.
Not much of what you said is true either.
Yeah, they do a lot of work, there's no doubt. But as far as the caretaker policy goes, can we focus back on that?
Some bias there, is David?
I know they extract all the rating information, they get all the CEO information, much to the chagrin of the CEOs. They do detailed analysis on CEO salaries and rates analysis. And the issue here on caretaker policy is that every council wants to do it differently, and they don't like being told how to suck eggs. So the LGA is a member representative body. If the membership says back off, then they have to back off. So people have asked for a basic framework, and that's what they've got. We as a council can go to a general meeting, put up any motion we like, and then if it's accepted by the body there, as Mark's been there and voted on our behalf, then the LGA is bound to fulfil that requirement. But in some instances, the LGA gets beaten up no matter what they do. This one, there is still, I think, an unsettled view across the sector as to the worthiness in the first place of this policy, let alone the wording of it. I'll come back with a couple of other points because I know Mark wants to.
Sorry, just before we move on from the social media, can we just go back to that for a moment? Yeah. I think there were some issues at the supplementary election in relation to social media. And at the time, I just vaguely remember, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, we called for a report to look at...
Oh, Roberts, I think it was on Twitter, about Twitter.
Well, I wasn't going to mention the actual, but anyway. Stop tweeting. No, I think at the time we called for a report, and there was a report that came back to council, and I thought it did refer the matter to this process. and I can't recall, I'm a bit fuzzy on the details, but I just think, I know it's difficult, but I think we do need to say something there. I don't think we can actually just do nothing, because it at least provide some sort of a framework for going forward, and what's going to be, like any other election process, a very interesting election campaign. And I think we should say something, even if it's about, like not trying to legislate to the nth tweet, but just to talk a bit, I guess, in broad terms about what we would expect from social media. And I think it does relate to things like, using council decisions to advantage or otherwise. I mean, that's an obvious one for social media, I think, that we could comment on. So it might be interesting to revisit what we said at the time and what the council report said, because I thought at the time I had some good stuff in there. It's a bit fuzzy on the detail. So, yeah, from my point of view, I'd just like to revisit that. I don't want to just pass it as it's too hard.
We can do that, no doubt. Bruce had a question first.
I agree with everything that Mark said. Because of the social media is changing so dramatically, involving so many people, I think we should investigate this further. I mean, I think the incident was staff were involved in, or just allegations of staff were involved in twittering and or using Twitter as for or pro a candidate or something like that. I can't remember exactly now what it was, and that's why it was brought up. Sorry.
We were given information back on that.
Yeah, but I'm saying, and this is why it is a very, as Council Group says, very delicate. It's a thing that we're still talking about, and I think it should be part of this policy that staff don't get involved with the Twitters or going back to Twitters and using Twitters as part of the campaign and and us what we can and can't do and what staff can and can't do. So I think Council Group's on the right track here, that we should be putting this and taking it more seriously than what we're probably actually taking.
Thanks for that.
I just think it's a nonsense. I mean, as soon as you say let's have a rule about Twitter, someone uses Instagram. As soon as you have a rule about Instagram, someone uses Facebook. As soon as you have a rule about, I mean, there are 2.5 million applications literally available to use, and I just think it's beyond the realms of the realms of reasonableness to expect policy around this, other than the bottom one. Don't use council resources. So what happened last time was someone hooked in the Prospect Road council logo, and the staffer retweeted it, thinking that's good news about Prospect Road, we'll get that back out there. Well, what happened was to stop that. So the staffer recognised that tweet was from a candidate, recognised that name and that Twitter handle, that's a candidate, I shouldn't retweet that one. But as for everybody else, any other shopkeeper who's tweeting something really good about Prospect Road and using the Prospect Road handle, our people should absolutely retweet that, provided it's not in an election context and no one can construe that. Now, so I understand why there's difficulty responding to this, but I think it is in simple terms back to the very, very basic principles. Don't use council resources. And it covers speech, it covers posters, it covers pamphlets, it covers use of people's text in the magazine, it covers use of logo, thank you, use of council letterhead or anything that looks like a letterhead to invite people to a street corner meeting, for instance, Twitter, Facebook, whatever you use, just got to be very careful. And to prescribe a particular thing for a particular application, you're just on a road to failure.
So just to the point, I wasn't talking about Twitter, I was talking about social media.
But which bit of social media?
Social media is all of it.
Yeah, that's all. Sorry.
Hang on, we've got Christina.
Why exclude speech and why exclude pamphlets and why exclude posters?
Absolutely. So
you've got an electoral commissioner set up to deal with this stuff. You've got a legal system to deal with defamation. I just think you've got the framework.
I think what you just described is probably 90% of it. Staff.
Describe it. I don't understand why the need is to. We don't describe. When you speak to somebody, you must speak like this. If you speak to someone outside the city, you can do it slightly differently. If you're speaking about a council decision, you have to. You're just making it very, very complex for no reason. Social media is like any other media. It's just electronic.
Yeah. So if I finish what I was going to say, it was your comment about staff not retweeting or Facebooking or Instagramming or whatever the forum, whatever the platform is, election material from a candidate. That could be, I mean, that to me would satisfy 90% of my concerns.
The problem is that's not policy, that's a directive to staff.
Yeah. Well, what's the policy then?
I need to move on because, and Bruce, they've been waiting patiently. Just before we do, have you finished with
Yeah. I accept what David's saying, but I think it's that issue, and as Bruce was talking about and Dave was talking about reminded me of what the actual issue was.
exactly.
That's probably what the
Crux of the matter is.
should be the caretaker policy, and that would satisfy, as I said, 9% of what I'm concerned about.
That's right. Christina?
Yes, yeah, I think it's quite clear, even turning it around saying about not use council resources. The fact is that when you're a candidate, you have to have your own email address, you have to have your own Twitter account, you have to have everything has to be yours and not council. iPad as well, unless you're on council business. And that's the restriction. If it's genuinely your, you know, like you receive an email here from a resident, and then you forward that on, whatever. So you're allowed. My understanding is that you're allowed to, if it's legitimate council business, but you cannot use it to promote yourself, you know, or anything like that. So yeah. So I think it makes it clear to say, oh, you know, yeah, okay, not use council resources. You've got it, but on the other hand, you do have to use your own resources, unless it's a genuine. You know. That's my interpretation. I don't know, Kerry, is that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's correct. Yeah.
Thanks for that. Bruce?
Well, I agree with what Mark said. I mean, we were just saying about social media, about everything. I think the whole crux of the matter was came back to what Mark and I just said, is about what happened when someone texts or emailed or tweeted the council, and the council staff came back, and I think that we have to be broad and really watch what happened last time. And that's all I think Mark and I are not going to put words in Mark's mouth either, but I think that's what we're trying to allude and get to, is what happened last time. I hope we've learned from that. And I agree with what David said as well, but I think David's taken a bit out of context of what actually Mark and I were trying to get across. But also what Christina said, that if a ratepayer emails us on our iPads, and we respond, well, how could that not be, well, you want to promote yourself, oh yeah, well, this. So, how can you not say, well, then someone says, well, hang on, you're electioneering, which could be true, but you're still responding to what the ratepayers, questions that ratepayers asked you. So you could be still electioneering, so how...
Don't include a photograph with vote for me.
I will only forward this email if you go.
So you know, where do we go on that? I mean, if you respond to the ratepayer, you could be, you know, someone's got it against you.
Legitimate use, and it makes it very clear in the policy.
How far do you go?
If you're acting in good faith and you're answering a question from a constituent, there would be no way that the Electoral Commission would uphold a complaint against you for using council iPad or your council email address.
I think the safest thing too is just to CC in the CEO or the governance officer, just to cover yourself and so to make sure that you can't be questioned on that. And if you are overstepping the line, then that, you know, they can advise you that, you know.
CC the Electoral Commission, and then you'll really find out.
David was next for a question.
Sorry.
Oh, just to point out that this is the tricky territory you get to if you're trying to be more specific, and I'm not trying to be cute, but if you talk about responding to people via email that's come in this caretaker zone, the way you respond could be construed by your competitor as electioneering. That's what I'm saying. You're quite right. Yeah. So then you start getting into writing rules around how you should respond. You go, oh my lord, reminds me of a council, I won't indicate where, who prohibited their councillors from using any of their council business cards during the caretaker period at all. So they all had to go and print their own stuff just to leave someone their name. Now, you could keep going on and on with this stuff. I think the basic rule is don't use council resources. If you do, you're fair game for your competitor to take you to the commissioner. And the commissioner can dole out the punishment. Right? If we have all the rules, this is the other flip side of the same coin. If you have all the rules, what is the penalty and when will that apply? Because then you start saying the commissioner's got a role, but our council's got a stiffer role. And surely that's only going to come to the council that gets elected at their first meeting in November, because otherwise you can't deal with it. So you run the risk of making things so complicated. Exactly. Putting a burden on the staff, just keep it really simple. Don't use council resources. And if you want to choose to bend those rules, that you are subject to a complaint, you're on your own. Off you go. Commissioner will make a rule. Now, I just wanted to get on because in the actual caretaker policy, there are two really important things that do affect us. And we've just approved a budget not nearly an hour ago. In that budget, we asked the CEO to get on and do a whole pile of things. And my view is if he can get them all done by the 2nd of July, I'm incredibly happy because it means our community's got the benefit straight away, although the cash flow issues. We need to let some contracts to get on with Churchill Road, Prospect Road Plec and Prospect Road Works. Now, not being able to sign anything after the 16th of September before about the 24th of November, for me is a problem. So can you take on notice what that means, and can you have a think about how to structure those things and get them to us, or whatever the process is, let us know what the impact is on that, because that is absolutely in black and white in the caretaker policy, and we will have our hands completely tied, and if the CEO gives us some pathway through it that we can sign off before the caretaker period. The second one is the remuneration of the CEO, and my understanding is you review that every October at the full review, and Council makes a decision on that at the October Council meeting, or is it the November Council meeting?
August this year.
So we're pulling that whole process forward. Okay, all right. So that'll...
August in the election year.
Or we could skip a year.
Well, yeah, that has other implications. So just so people are aware that will come to us earlier as well.
I'll vote for that.
Yeah. But other than that, I think the stuff's fairly straightforward, and that's how we should keep it.
We should be able to get the Churchill Road tender out, though, because that's been fully written up and scoped, and, oh, you're working on it, okay. Better be.
So the design's been completed, specifications just need to be put together.
Yes, I mean, it's all scoped and everything.
Away we go.
Okay, good. See that at August Council meeting then.
It'll have to be, because it means.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Kerry.
Yep, thank you. So I've got that information. This will come to the July Council meeting, so you have a chance to talk about it again. I'm just going to make one comment about the incident with the Twitter that we had the issue with before. It wasn't in a caretaker period. It was leading up to an election. I know it's sort of pedantic, but that was with the by-election.
Yeah, it was with the by-election,
yeah. Caretaker period. So as far as it is something that we need to look at as a council to make sure things like that don't happen. I understand that, but it's not anything to do with the actual caretaker period.
It wasn't deliberate, was it?
No, of course, no. But I mean,
I was suggesting it was.
but it didn't fall within the caretaker period either.
So are there no caretaker provisions under supplementary elections?
Correct.
Well, these are only new. We didn't have these when I ran for council. Council could decide to let a $10 million contract on the night before ballots closed. The state government got all worried about this for some reason. I don't know why.
I certainly think that it's something that we should look at is a supplementary by-election where, where there could be some constraint on current elected members, and I think we should have a policy around that where, people are openly out supporting candidates over others. So I think there should be policy around that, and perhaps that could come back to a further workshop at a later stage. But also just wanted to talk about social media. I think that we need to have a section in there. Social media is getting bigger, and I think we need to have policy around it. I don't think that we can just sort of let it go that, what happened happened. So I think that we should have some policy around it, just like what Mark said and Bruce.
Do you think that it belongs to the caretaker policy, or perhaps we can have a look at our social media policy?
I think they're two very different things, I think.
Well, complement each other, though, wouldn't they? I mean, what goes in social media policy, you'd have to have something about, caretaker thing, and in the caretaker, you'd have to have something.
Well, it wouldn't even have to be caretaker. It could be about any election, so that would take into the well. So it's just like in a time of election, and then you could go on to say about the candidates and the retweeting in there.
Well, we can
that would be outside of a caretaker period, but it could be possible.
We can do a bit more research into which is the better, most effective way to go. But the clear message is there's a need for something. Consult with other councils.
Good luck, Kerry. If you want to try and pick all that up, I will raise use of council business cards, use of council letterhead, use of council email, replies to emails, use of email signature blocks on emails to anybody. So I'm going to broaden it much beyond social media if you want to go into this, because you can't just pick up one thing and ignore all the other stuff.
I'm fine by that. Get us on the level playing field.
Well, I'm fine looking at it. You can't do it in the social media policies like more. That's trying to be too specific. It's about how you behave in an election. You're better off doing what you suggested, which is have an election behaviour policy. And social media is just one of 1,000 ways you can get in touch with people.
Good luck, Kerry.
I'll have a look at it.
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Well, you could frame it in the things that you are allowed to do.
Well, sort of. Only if you say, if it's not included here, you can't do it.
Can we just get a gauge around the floor? Personally, I'm of the view that it should start from the open of nominations, but I'll just be guided by what other councillors think.
that's for caretaker period?
Yeah.
All right. So that's your view?
My view is, yeah, I don't think that we should have any preference over any other candidate that applies, so I think it should start as soon as nominations are open.
So come second.
My view.
I'm happy to leave it as it is. I don't think a couple of days makes any difference.
Okay, leave it.
Look, I think I'll take it on notice. I'm not. Yeah, I just don't know. Actually, I need to think about it. The thought of having it from the second kind of makes sense because everyone will have a level playing field from day one. It'll just be about limiting our ability to make decisions between the 2nd and 16th that I'm concerned about, because then it becomes 2.5 months. It's no nervousness. But I think the principle, as I agree with Scott, makes sense. But it's a long time. Almost
How practical is the question? Monica?
I'm not keen to leave council neglected for that period of time, so I think leave it as it is.
So, Ashley?
I'd leave it as is. I mean, you could easily have a situation where nobody nominated from the last day, and then you've got this period, and people will chop and change. Some people nominate and then denominate or change. Close of nominations is when you get serious, and I'd say that is the whole point of it. From the point you lock in, not before.
Okay.
I'm not generally in favour of the caretaker provisions. They weren't based on any evidence that was presented to me that there was a problem that was trying to be solved. It was merely people thinking that there was a problem, and the system responded to it. I don't believe there was any track record we had here about making decisions that were not in the best interests of the community in the lead up right to the election. I think people come on board for all the right reasons, and that's my view. So I'd be happy with a shorter period.
Okay.
So let's scrap the caretaker policy then, put an as mayor against it.
You can't, because we're under a state act and it's been imposed on us. But as I say, I don't believe it was imposed on the back of a body of evidence that suggested there was abuse.
No.
Some members.
So Scott, doesn't appear there's that much support. So, okay. So we'll start that discussion on the caretaker policy for now, and we'll come back to you with some more information. Yep. Good. Next item is the item number 4, which is the proposed changes to the Code of Conduct for council members. Kerry?
Again. Yes, the Minister has asked us to comment on how the Code of Conduct for council members is going, even though it's not been in place for a year yet. But I was going to flick, I haven't spoken to you, David, but I was going to flick to you only because some of the comments came from Sarah.
Regional councils.
Yes. In the workshop notes it says the regional councils approach the LGA about consulting.
Yeah, a couple of them have had issues about the nature of the penalties they can impose and a bit about the process from memory. I haven't got that paper in front of me.
Okay. Yeah, I think from my limited knowledge of it, it's about when a panel or independent investigator makes a recommendation to council on a breach and says that there's a breach, and the code gives options for penalties, and I think there's some councils saying that they don't want to make that decision. So I guess they're saying that whatever comes back to council from the investigator would go through.
The issue for some of the smaller councils, say you've got a community of 1,200 people and you've got a council of 7 or 9 people there, they all know each other. They do business with each other. They see each other on the street. Their families are friends. For them to sit and adjudicate and impose a penalty on one of their colleagues they find extremely difficult. I don't think we find it easy, but they are saying they find it very difficult, and so they want someone to recommend and in effect impose a penalty, and the council notes the penalty that's been imposed rather than council. That's a fair summary of where they're.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I read it. Look,
I've just got a question from Bruce.
I heard someone spoke to me about this during the week, and they said it actually came from the LGA, not from the Minister at all. It came from the LGA. This
Karakara committee of the LGA, I told.
No, I heard that it came direct from our LGA, not the Minister at all. This changes are, from what I've told, that the LGA want to make these changes, not the Minister.
So I think you may be right. There may be two things going on. The Minister has received some feedback from Commissioner Lander that there is
Commissioner Lander.
Well, he's the head of the ICAC and the Office of Public Integrity. That he's received some feedback saying that the code is not quite right, and there are also issues about the conflict of interest provisions being too harsh. In other words, there are private companies wishing to entertain council staff and councillors who are finding it difficult because of the requirements under the new code. Basically, say that's a conflict of interest, and people are interpreting that as not accepting any entertainment whatsoever. So Commissioner Lander said, look,
isn't that a good thing, though?
Well, there's different views on that. So the Minister has said, let's have a look at that. He's not making any judgment right now. At the same time, the South Australian region of councils have, I think, raised at a general meeting that they want the LGA to ask for the code penalty imposition process to be looked at. So what you're finding is there's a request for changes coming from two different directions. Okay? The Minister and from within the LGA. And you're going to open up the stuff, you open it up once rather than twice.
Wouldn't it be better to wait for Commissioner Lander to follow up and report back on things?
Well, he will be driven by the feedback he's had about the relationship between private companies and councillors and council staff, not the penalty stuff that the SAROC have raised. So they're two different things.
So the Minister has written to the LGA seeking feedback. Yeah, but that's what we're responding to at the moment.
Okay, let's go through each of them. The manager report, what's the problem with that? Is there LGA, what's the problem that the LGA has with that? Manager report, why do they need to change that? Why do they need to change the gifts and benefits? Why do they need to change the remove options under clause?
No one's saying they should change, or no one's suggesting change.
No, but why has this come, apart from Dave saying it's regional, councils have a problem because they're mates, is that the only reason, or?
Only because the Minister has written and offered us the opportunity to provide feedback.
So what's that Minister saying, or the LGA saying that the LGA want them to have this, and what they say mandatory reporting? I can't remember what mandatory reporting was about. So what was mandatory reporting about, Kerry?
It's come from the Minister to the LGA. The LGA can go to us to have a look at.
What was the mandatory reporting? What was that clause, Kerry?
You read that one?
Yep.
Which one are we looking at now?
215.
So what do they want to do with that, Kerry? I don't understand why. What do they want to do with that, the LGA?
At the ordinary meeting, a motion was raised and passed that the LGA call upon the state government to review it with particular reference to the mandatory reporting requirements. I don't know who brought it up.
But then how can we make a decision on that if we don't know what they mean?
To be clear, just so everyone understands, the general meeting is a general meeting of the LGA where all the councils are present.
I understand that, Mark, but I'm saying what Kerry can't tell us what they want done with that.
Well, hang on. The question is, do you want anything done with it? If you don't, and we agree we don't, we're right back saying we don't.
But I don't understand what they want done with it though.
So you
Discuss it.
saying
They want
that
us to discuss
why have they just pulled out these?
Why have they just pulled out these three? I
If
mean,
we think it's a good idea or not, or got something else.
so is the LGA, regional LGA saying they want to get rid of it? Mark, is that what they're saying?
No.
So all I understand is the LGA has sought feedback from councils, and these are the key issues that are being raised with the LGA, and they're asking us about those to feed back to the minister.
Yeah, but I'm saying that. So that's what I'm saying. What is the issue with that 2.15? What is the issue with the other two?
Well, just reading it, it's maybe they just don't want to have the responsibility of jobbing people in. Maybe that's the problem.
I don't. Is that what you got, David, from the regional LGA? Is that they want the LGA to have the complete control of those three? Is that what they're saying?
You want to control your life. That's basically it. And because anyway.
I'm being serious, Dave.
The issue here is some staff, some CEOs in particular, believe that this is a massive imposition on them. That they have to have a look at item 216. A failure to report an alleged or even a suspected breach is in itself a breach.
Which is rubbish. That's ridiculous.
Well, 2 seconds ago you were asking what the problem with it is. I just pointed it out to you.
No one brought up 2.16.
I just pointed out to you that clause, and now you can see there's problems with it. Right? So some elected members are saying, well, what, you want me to be the police? How am I supposed to know what's going on? And if I write off every week, every time I hear somebody say the wrong thing or do something, and oh my goodness gracious, so this is quite onerous, and it probably is similar to the mandatory reporting that Monica has to go through as a teacher. But that's, I won't say it's restricted. I won't dumb that down. There's no restriction on this other than saying it's a breach of the code. That could be in decision making, conversations, use of council resources.
There's no restriction. If you have a suspicion, what that means is if you suspect, you report. That's what it's saying, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
Some are saying it's a big imposition. I reckon
Well,
it's correct.
It's part of our responsibility, I think, that if you suspect something inappropriate is happening, then you need to report it. I don't see how that's an
It
imposition.
depends at what level is the key.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you.
I don't think that matters actually, because if it's something where
Well, that's it. It's a part 3. So, but
So, under 3.1, someone who hasn't acted honestly in their performance and discharge of their office. Just that one.
But how do you know if they've acted honestly? Your version of some event
okay,
Could be different to go back to 216. If you suspect and you don't report it, you're alleged you have breached the code.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. This is where it's wrong. That's wrong, because you could say, well, hang on, I think you're wrong in what you're saying because you could be dishonest in what you're saying. But to me, I think I'm right in what I'm saying without realising it is dishonest.
but read 3.2.
The honesty.
Read 3.2.
Exactly. Where is the honesty needed?
The commissioner. So it gets referred to the commissioner to make that up.
David, read 3.2. I mean, that would be very easy to think that the council wasn't really performing there, so they have to report them. But that's...
It's quite onerous. So the feedback is this is far too onerous. I agree with you.
And that
It's highly subjective on that.
conflicts with the caretaker policy. It says at all times. It doesn't say at all times except in the caretaker mode.
what?
Oh no, you can't act dishonestly in a caretaker mode. I might like to.
3.2. No.
Well, so you're right, Christina.
Oh, but you still perform your duties during caretaker, so that's covering you. That has to be there.
To stop complicit, I can't say the word, but people just going, oh well, it just stops that beginning of more inappropriate behaviour. I don't think it's onerous at all. I think that's part of our duty. If someone's doing the wrong thing, then we should be following through our obligations, and it might just be a quiet word, mate. What you're doing is not okay. Oh.
No, but that's no. You have to report it directly.
No.
Actually, is right.
Stop. Just stop. So if I go to Mark and say, look, this is what I suspect is happening, and Mark goes and talks to the others, I don't go up to them and I don't go up to you and say, look, that's not okay. But Mark can go and say, you need to understand that this
No, he can't.
It has to be reported.
He has to report it. And it's offence not to report it. That's the whole point. He cannot. He
Take those words literally, that's okay.
Yeah, one generally does take those words literally.
So what's likely to happen is that people will just ignore this, or you'll get someone who's kind of a bit, persuaded by other virtues than the ones that we all hold, who may be out to get the CEO, right? And will work in a whole pile of things saying the CEO should have known this and didn't report it. And after there's about 10 of those, there'll be please report to the API, come and explain yourself. So you're getting a whole heap of people involved in an exercise of investigation and a whole heap of people anxious. Really, it's a fairly onerous clause. So that's why...
Very, very open.
That's why
And especially in circumstances, talk about Monica, it may sound innocuous. So the CEO says, look, really, cut your cloth differently. You find out 3 weeks later, it was vastly worse and horrendous, and the CEO were you told about it? Oh yeah, I was told and I dismissed it. Oh great.
But you weren't in full knowledge of...
It's a very difficult one, and I wouldn't envy the CEO being in that position.
So is the LJ saying, Mark, to go back to my question before, does the LJ want to take this as theirs off our books? Because quite right, now that we're discussing all of this, there's a lot of stuff in here, if you're now looking at it properly, it could be actually taken out and should be taken out.
That's the sort of feedback that the LGA is looking for.
Yeah.
If we're a review...
My opinion, what people are saying now is, things could be, this could be so open to interpretation of anything.
This needs to be gone over and simplified so much.
Absolutely.
Honestly.
I agree.
And, why should we, councils and ratepayers have to fork out money to have, somebody else come and deliberate, on it, pontificate on it,
At a huge
the
cost
state
involved.
government wants us to do that. The state
Let them
government
pay for
can
it.
jolly well pay for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree, because it says, why should ratepayers have to pay for it when we do it in-house, or the government wants us to do this, let them pay for it.
They can have their own committee, and you've got to go and fund their own committee.
Exactly.
And we don't pay for it.
Yeah.
Yes, but the state government will decide who pays for it, so I wouldn't even bother arguing. We don't win that battle ever.
Well, you won't if you just sit there.
Exactly. If you don't say anything and just take it.
Don't think it's one we've ever won in the entire 100.
But actually, the LJ is asking for feedback on this, and Christina Barnett is giving feedback that she...
Oh, look, yeah.
They're opposing, and I suspect the feedback has been delivered honestly, and the performance is duties as a council. So I'm very happy.
I don't have a problem, David, with 3.1 up there. 3.2 really could be tightened up. It's
set up their own panel and go to it. We don't have to pay for it.
That's really what it's about, acting dishonestly or...
And who's to say, I might be thinking I'm acting honestly with someone else's opinion saying, well, you're not. Maybe what's,
It doesn't matter what you think you're doing. If someone suspects that what you're doing is inappropriate,
But come back to law.
When you're seen driving somebody else's Jaguar and they know it's not yours, then you fall into that.
It's so you look at some of this stuff and it's so open. It's just really,
well, all I've got so far is the
they get hung over this stuff.
3.2 to be tightened up.
Are there any other views on I mean, obviously there's some concern about this clause.
Well, not just this clause, Mark. I think Christina Barnett hit it right on the nail. I think it needs a thorough going over the whole lot and simplify. And I don't know whether it is taken out of our hands and given to the LGA to do.
Not the LGA.
The LGA won't deal with getting feedback.
That's all, I am giving my feedback.
Right, well, you need to direct them more than just hand over the...
Or we get rid of the LGA out of this equation and just let us handle it, or let the state government handle it.
This is not the LGA's code, though.
Their own code. No, the prospect code.
So this is, yeah, that's what I'm saying, the minister's code. So therefore, the minister should own it and let him pay for it and let him deal with it. Do the code of conduct. The minister does the code of conduct. Sets up a panel that whoever breaks the code goes to.
I think we're not going to. The duty we've got tonight is to consider what information we provide back to the LGA to make a legitimate submission. If we miss that opportunity, then we can't really complain about it. So all I can suggest is a way forward is that we continue to provide Kerry with some information
Mark, same as 3.7.2, any gift. So if you read that, it's either be intended to like to influence them in carrying out their vote. I mean, what if you go like I went to Deb when Deb left, I took Deb to lunch and I actually paid for it. It cost me $40. Should I have reported that? Should I report it? I don't know.
That is why that's the other item on the agenda to discuss.
So should I? I don't know what it is.
There's no.
So really, I had lunch with her to say thank you very much, farewell. I paid for it. The council didn't pay for it. I
You
didn't.
can accept a gift of benefit.
Yeah, so
No, but if you read that, it could actually, I could be seeking influence from Deb while she was still employed by us. Because she was still employed by us. But
Then that would be something that Deb would have to consider, not you.
because I'm the one who's taken out the lunch as well as a councillor. I'm a councillor in this council, so it does affect me as well, possibly. This is why it's so open. A lot of these things in here are so open for interpretation. Should I have said, yes, I took Deb out to lunch because she's worked for this council still? I, as a councillor?
Not under this code.
No.
But I'm saying this is such a... Well, how do you read that? I'm saying that I possibly should have...
It says seek or accept. You giving a gift is not included in item 3.71, 3.72 or 3.73. It's pretty...
The possibility is someone could say, hang on, you're trying to influence her, you're trying to curry favour with her by...
Next time you do it, seek advice. Is it okay for me to take Deb to lunch and spend $40 on her?
Well, until I just saw that now, I mean, I've never read the whole damn
Then in the
thing.
future, seek advice.
And anybody else has read the thing either, until now. I think Christina's right. There's a lot of this stuff out there.
Yeah, I have. Yeah. It's the law.
Yeah. Marcus,
Look, just a couple of things. I want to go back to the penalty. Well, actually, I'll start from the bottom. I've no problems with gifts and benefits clauses. I think it's forward. I ate the chocolate. I gave the wine up. I was happy with that. The misconduct of it was a good event. The misconduct of council members. I actually had no problem with that clause either. I just think we know. Well, we probably didn't know this when we signed up to this gig, but certainly the new councillors come in, if they're well versed and well researched, they'll understand what they're signing up for. It's a responsibility we have. I have no problems with it. So that's my view on that one. Imposition of penalties by councils. Trying to be clear, when a council receives a report from the panel and it makes some recommendations about action, that council can choose to accept those or other, or choose something else.
Under this code, yes.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to understand the regional council's point of view. I'm not sure whether it's semantics or not. So they don't want to even make the decision to accept the report.
Correct.
They just want it to be. I reckon that's bad luck because I think that no, and I accept. I used to live in a town of 1,500 people and everyone didn't know each other and probably things about each other you didn't want to know. Yes. But the point is, if you're an elected member of council, you've got the choice of just saying, and surely you could pass a bylaw or some sort of local policy that says we'll just accept any panel recommendation. That would solve their issue. I wouldn't want my right to accept or otherwise be taken away, so I wouldn't be supporting that change.
I think to just sort of jump in on that one to clarify, I think one of the other scenarios put up, and I have seen this happen, was where the majority of council supported the breacher and decided not to impose a penalty on the breacher because they were all one gang. So they caucused too, right? And that scenario you'd think, crikey, so is that condoning behaviour? Is that itself in breach of the code? Well, no. 225.1 says you can choose to take no action. So they said, look, we really should have that power taken away from us because we don't want justice to be subverted by the majority voting it down. It has happened.
But the question is, do you legislate for the smallest possible possibility that something might happen?
Back to my previous conversation.
Almost. or do you legislate for, common sense and normality? I'll go for that. I understand what you're saying. My view for what it's worth is that I just think that council can make decisions locally and just needs to take on the chin.
I agree.
And that doesn't do with your last comment or saying about caucusing for a decision. But councils are ultimately responsible for the people that vote them in and to ICAC and to others.
I think if the minority councillors reported that vote to the Office of Public Integrity, I think the Commission would be very interested in having a look at that.
So that's the mandatory reporting requirements.
There is a remedy. Yeah, there is a remedy. I agree with you.
And remembering always that this is under part 2, not 3, and repeatedly found to breach under Part 2, it moves it into Part 3 anyway, and then you get trapped by Part 3. So you can't keep, as a council, just saying, okay, I won't do anything else, because that person will then get trapped under Part 3. Then it takes it out of council's hand. And
the other thing to bear in mind is that the council may choose to impose additional penalties other than what the investigator said, because the council might have a different view or a longer history or whatever. They might choose to impose everything from 225.2 to 225.6, for instance.
What would happen if the result comes back and says that they're, not guilty or something or other? So under those, the council can still do those things.
No, it says a breach.
Right.
Yeah. But again, that councillor could take that to the OPI saying, well, did nothing wrong. They got stuck into it. Fair enough. Oh, really? We're complaining. The OPI, okay.
So with the three particular things the Minister or the LGA have highlighted, the first one being this area, how do councillors feel about giving feedback to that? Is that working for us? Is it not working for us? Do we all...
We don't all have to majority agree though, do we?
No, I don't think so. I think anyone can give feedback on... Yeah, but you can give it direct to me or you can give it directly to the LGA.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, what am I saying? So the feedback comes in and a majority position, the LGA says, oh, this is a majority view and passes it on to the Minister. But then, I'm just saying would councils, some councils dissent from it, but then they're still going to have to...
becomes part of the Act, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hence what we've got. Don't think the LGA didn't lobby like crazy about this stuff, and we lost a lot of decisions. Right? So the Minister's going to open it up. We're going to go back in there and ask for certain things. And my view is this is okay. I don't think the power should be taken away from councils at this level.
Is that a general view?
Yep. Yeah. On this in particular, or the whole thing?
That's 20.
I don't have a problem with that.
225.
I only have a problem with that 3.2 or whatever it was. Yeah. I think that's all down to that. It's on the CEO to...
The findings, and we've got gifts and benefits. We spoke briefly about. We're okay with that.
The recipient.
Yep. So, Kerry, what was the issue? Who had the issue with that one?
Gifts and benefits, people are saying that it's too restrictive and it's getting to the point where people won't even go and have a cup of coffee.
But they can come, eh?
Well, it gets back to not so much the dollar amount because it is presented at $100, but it gets back to perception. So if someone sees you having a cup of coffee or someone buying you lunch and it's contentious, I don't mean just anyone, but people are taking it to the nth degree. I know Burnside have got absolute zero tolerance.
Commissioner Lander, though, said no. Commissioner Lander was quite free about it, said no, it does not affect in the normal way receiving benefit like dinners and lunches. And
well, that's not what this says, and I think what it is the way it reads, people, he might say that, but not a lot of people hear that, and they're quite worried about it. They're simply, you're watching your back all the time. And
Kerry, but if I remember when Norman Waterhouse came here, didn't they say that we couldn't accept the coffee, free coffee? Didn't they say that?
They didn't say you couldn't accept a coffee. They said you need to be careful about perception.
Yeah.
I think what they said is if you're worried, buy your own.
Well, you buy your own. Again, perception, you might have bought your own. People walking past won't know you bought your own. And that's the nitty-gritty people are getting down to, of like, I won't even leave the office.
There is some concern at the moment. There is some concern at the moment that solicitors are really taking it literally, reading it literally as well, and are scaremongering amongst councils. And the commissioner himself is sort of has a fairly relaxed attitude.
Very relaxed. Yeah.
That's the current commissioner, and the next commissioner may have a completely different view. So I believe it needs to be reviewed. The wording actually needs to be reviewed to make it all right. And that's what's really coming through.
Well, I agree. I think it should be reviewed as well. Yeah.
To say
Well, I don't know. I don't know the word.
Sorry,
So
Kerry,
we did to take that panic thing away.
Yeah. Reassurance.
Kerry, you said $100 is gazetted. Where is it gazetted? And where does it refer to clause 3.7 specifically? Because that doesn't refer to any gazettal amount anywhere.
I remembered that. I'm sure it was $100.
Down here.
Yeah, they
No,
don't
that's
put
just
it
to
in.
record it. That's simply about record.
Where does it say $100 though, Kerry?
That was gazetted at a later time.
Word in italics, it's referring to another document. That's fine. There's a link. There's a link between 3.10 and another document. But item 3.7 provides no such link.
Read 3.7.
That's the one where it says,
That one we just read.
7
Yeah.
says must not. Okay, so you must not seek gifts or benefits of any kind.
That says seek.
Yeah, so
seek.
that must not.
Or-
Must
or-
not. But the one
That's quite clear though, 3.7.
so that's okay. The ones you can accept them, but they need to go to the register if they're over $100. But if
yes. But they're separate clauses and they work separately. There may be something that has no commercial value that under item 3.7 you shouldn't accept, and that might be a trip to someone's farm to fish off their coastline, and it's exclusive kind of land. You can't get there unless you know the property owner. They don't sell the rights to it, but they invite you down there. They give you a beer, put on a fire, catch fish, off you go. It's not $100. It might be nothing.
3.7 is must not.
Right. So in 3.7, even though it's not $100, the commissioner might say, well, you spent a lot of time on this property over many months, and all of a sudden they won the supply contract for your new truck fleet at council. Well, hang on a minute. There's a connection between your relationship and that contract. I think that's of interest. No value. Item 3.10, is it 10? Simply says where you've got a gift over $100, you record it.
Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. So 3.7 says you can't. So if the commissioner finds out you're going to your mate's place and doing fly fishing, that is wrong. No matter how much it's worth. Doesn't matter if it's worth nothing.
Only if you satisfy those conditions of 2 or 3.
Only to the point of then a contractual relationship
That's right.
starts.
Or seeks to be in any
So
contract.
confusing.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
And your mate is with the land.
Then don't you then declare a conflict of interest?
You could be going there for 4 months.
Really,
That's right, and if you don't do
that's
that,
a conflict of interest, and that's where that's captured really.
Now, Commissioner Lander has verbalised that unless he can see a strong connection between the gifts and the outcomes, he's not interested. He doesn't want to have thousands of councillors complaining about each other for accepting free cups of coffee. Okay, not interested. However, despite the LGA lobbying, requesting, writing, he has not provided interpretations or limits or guidance. Okay, so I mean, I kind of agree with Mark that whilst I think underlying this, the intention is quite clear. I don't have a problem with it. There's no guidance about this, and I think there should be. And when you've got guidance and law, then you've got the potential for a misinterpretation. I'd rather they fix the law to make sure that it was really, really clear. And I'm not sure that it is clear enough.
I still have a problem with 3.7.3, and I voiced this before when we discussed it. How on earth are you to know all the contractual relationships with council?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that would be your defence.
We don't know everything that this council does with business people. I would know who we buy our papers from.
I would think
That's your intent as well, though.
exactly right.
What's your intent?
Exactly right.
I think it's where the conflict comes in. So
Yeah, but how would you know, though, how would you know that you're in conflict when you don't know that you're having a coffee and lunch
Well, it
or a big
becomes a
dinner with a guy who's got a contract with the council to send them all the printers and cartridges and you don't know that though, do you?
It's got so many.
Exactly, David's right.
You
It's got so many
could have
interpretations.
a few copies with somebody who's new in the printing game, and what that does is it introduces them to the CEO who says, yeah, we need a third person on our tender list. All of a sudden they've won the tender. And you go, hang on a minute, I've got to declare a conflict of interest about approving that tender. Okay, well, but you helped introduce it. So where did it actually go wrong? Was it there, or is it you sitting on that decision, or does you being on that decision doesn't make a difference anymore because it's gone so far down the track? That's why I think this is spoofing so many people. They are worried not just about potentially breaking the law, but about being accused of breaking the law.
We're trying to get people to run for council, and they see all this, and I think
They're going to be shit scared, worried that they're going to be, yeah.
So my view is I understand the intent, but there needs to be far more guidelines, or it's got to be worded far more distinctly.
Yeah, got that.
3.7.3 though, I don't quite see the problem in as much as if somebody hands you a gold bar, you think, fun, very kind of you, but if it's a cup of coffee, why is a stranger going to suddenly give you a gift? I mean, I don't understand where this problem arises.
But actually, Norman Waterhouse did say about the accepting cup of coffee.
No, they didn't. Norman Waterhouse, that's not my memory at all.
We get Woolmans or Norman Waterhouse, any you like. They get their biros, get their pads.
Listen to what Mark said. It's a feeding frenzy. Exactly. We all want to give you advice that makes you totally conservative, so every time you think about a cup of coffee, you ring the lawyer, send you a bill. Right? There's no journalist here, is it? Keep quiet.
Where I wouldn't totally agree with you, David, the very fact that Commissioner Lambda has said that and reported it, that will stand to a fair degree. He has verbal intent, and the thing to do is for council to have a copy of that. Because every lawyer in South Australia will have that written, copied, they will note it, and they will use it when they need to, and it has got strength.
He hasn't written it though.
Just like the taxation office, they give a lot of verbals and they hold in court.
If they're written down.
So that'll be the
Yes, but not necessarily by him. No. The very fact he has made a verbal statement, he has to agree. It's like verbal contract. Verbal contract stands in court.
I'm not going to tell the Commissioner how to suck eggs on law.
No, but if you can reasonably show the Commissioner said, look, this is okay, then the Commissioner really has to support that or retract it.
Said my piece.
So,
the question.
Well, I think this shows confusion amongst us, whether Ash is correct or David's correct. I think we should find out if there is a paper that says what Commissioner Land has said or does not, and what is, whether it's just verbal or it's not recorded. What is our legal requirements, mate? So I think there's confusion here amongst us, some of us, enough to say we are confused about some of these codes on here, and they do need to be revised or checked or find it or be corrected or get that. If there is a paper that actually says, or Dave says there's no paper.
I'm waiting for the gift, so I'm
very confused here. We're just all the councillors. Where's the direction coming from? Our lawyers to say, you know.
As a matter of interest, I know that the Commissioner is meeting with the majority of the solicitors that operate in Adelaide to discuss.
And they'll want their bit so that we can start getting...
I think that's trying to really try to iron out some of these issues.
If you interviewed the lawyers when they came out of that meeting, they'd have 5 different opinions. I've got 10 fingers up.
How did that?
Yeah.
Okay. Mandatory reporting, the 2.15 is council have an opinion on that or generally happy?
I think it's far too onerous, so that's what we...
Yeah.
Everyone agree with that?
Oh, no, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Well, of part 3, this is different. This is part 2. See, it's the failure to report in part 2, I think, is a problem. And did we cover that?
Part 2.
Parliament's report to breach of part 3.
Yes, I can't go just straight to the Ombudsman or the Office of Public Integrity. Isn't that what?
Ledbury is separate of part 3.
Is that what CEOs are saying, Mark?
What's that, sorry?
Just get rid of must report the breach to the principal member of the council or chief executive officer. Just go straight to the Ombudsman or the Office of Public Integrity.
Self a breach under this part.
Is that what the CEO, a lot of CEOs are?
Yeah, I haven't had too many comments on that, to tell you the truth.
And remembering that Part 3 misconduct is quite a weighty area of this code of conduct. It's not behavioural, it's not for little things.
It's corruption.
Quite corruption, yeah. It's quite big. So
Just show us part 3 again, because it didn't stand out to me.
and here's a
Misconduct doesn't say corruption.
It says may report to the council. Again, reporting.
3.2, as Ashley's pointed out, it's not about being corrupt.
no, but it is about being dishonest, and dishonesty is
Where does it say about being dishonest?
That's that honestly at all times.
Okay. 3.2 doesn't.
Yeah, 3.2 is the only thing that's concerned me so far.
What concerns you about it, actually?
Because perform the child with reasonable care. You know, boy, you know,
What's the alternative to reasonable care? Unreasonable care?
no, I'd like to see words like honesty in there. You know, it's reasonable care is so arbitrary. You know, you turn up late all the time. That's not very careful, is it?
About reading in minutes.
Huh?
About reading in reports.
Yeah, I mean, that's. But you could write it to show that.
Beavers have done that.
Because part 3 is more about corruption and the like, and I think it should reflect that. See, 3.1 says act honestly at all times. What is the charge?
Yeah, I mean, part 3 says not release or divulge information that the council is ordered to be kept confidential. I mean, that's a breach, and that should be...
I'm not saying I have a problem with
No,
that.
you only have a
No.
problem with 3.2.
It's only 3.2 that I think could be worded to more reflect that it's part 3 and not part 2. Even in part 2, I think it's something the CEO should be able to look after himself, get your act together. Well, I'm not sure the extent you can do that with elected members anyway. It's probably the mayoral role. But in terms of part 3 and the nature of part 3, to have something as wishy-washy as with reasonable care and diligence at all times, sheesh.
so that one we could put the feedback to tighten that up. Yeah.
I think it should more reflect that it's part 3 and it's
Less subjective.
I think
yeah, and less subjective.
care I think that has legal meanings.
Oh, well, not yet. And part of the problem is it's such a young code. There's I haven't seen a single finding come out because the LGA haven't put out in the bulletin, neither have the law firms. This stuff will only be interpreted in terms of the reasonableness test in court. And until you see a case go up, it's bloody hard work.
That's what the person in the street would think is reasonable care.
Yeah,
I'd suggest you could
always in the context of the complaint.
You could scrap 3.2 because it's really covered in 3.1 anyway. It's almost exactly the same wording, and yet it just lowers the act honestly at all times and discharge of their official functions and duties. What on else is what 3.2 add?
So act honestly and diligently at all times, and that would cover. You can have that 3.
Now, I believe, David, this feedback can come from council or individuals.
Yeah.
So my next question is, do you want to send it back as council, or would you like to give feedback as individuals?
Council.
Somebody to send
Better.
and their own.
And even if we do it in council, that won't stop you from getting onto the LGA yourselves and giving your opinion. So
So
we'll
you-
put something together for July council.
Right, to a formal resolution.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Does anybody have a problem deleting 3.2 and relying
No,
on
I don't. Not for level 3. I don't.
what? You don't have a problem?
you need to.
Because level, yeah, this part is an escalation of the sorts of wrongdoings. So I think it's too open.
It is. So delete 3.2 and rely. I think you can rely on 3.1. It's the same thing, but much stronger. It's the honesty principle. Okay.
Okay. Well, that gives me quite a bit to go on. If anyone reads it or
I think I'm honest.
has any other opinions, in the meantime, send them through. I'll include them in the report, and that can be debated on the board.
Kerry.
Thanks, Kerry.
Bruce, I don't know if you heard that. So if there's any more information you want to give through to Kerry. All right. Thanks for that. We'll move on now to the final part, which is the open discussion. Is there anything to raise? I've got one thing to raise tonight.
Go for it, Mark.
Okay. I just need to be open with you about a problem I've got. I only found out about it at 4:30 today.
Personal problem, Mark?
No. not at the moment, anyway. So I'm going to try to resolve it, but you may not have, a couple of you picked up a copy of the magazine, and unfortunately it's got an error in it.
Oh, Harris, is it? Harris is...
Tell him.
Is it? Harris's letter?
It was on the front cover.
Show us the front cover.
Show us the front cover, Mark.
Are we guys
What's it
suggesting?
saying? Cross and socket
I
at
think they've got it.
Addoyota.
Monica thinks she's got it.
I'm trying to read it. The crossing.
Pick it up in the first read.
Oh, that
Name of the oval. Who else has got it?
I'm
Goethe.
see it properly.
Have a look. Yeah, I can't see it so shiny.
Got another minute.
We can give you a copy if you still.
Well, the cross isn't spelled with two E's on the end of it. Crossy. Crossy.
The cross is wrong.
Well,
Right.
Councillor Dixon.
You win a prize.
Thanks. You know, that's all we're after. A major mistake with the spelling, and it obviously got past our proofreading.
Under Yuta is right, just to confirm.
So that's not how you spell the cross, and a very embarrassing mistake.
How many people have picked it up, Mark?
No one yet.
There you go.
I picked up one, sure my names, but numerous members have, looked at it, and then it was printed, and they had something about a crochet club instead of croquis club.
Is that yours under the table, Monica?
My concern is that this has been printed and has been taken to Australia Post, and some may have been delivered.
Oh, don't stop it. Just get it.
Oh, look.
Mark, is that going to cost us to get it done? Just leave it. Just leave it, please.
Tell it how you spell it after you get whacked in the mouth with one of those things.
On the website, I offer a lacrosse stick for anyone who picks it up.
Mark, it's going to cost us some money to leave.
I wouldn't send it.
Put it on the
wouldn't worry
website and say,
If people are comfortable, then my view was, having had it a bit longer to think about it than you guys, that we do have a bit of fun with it, and we do make a bit of a competition, and put something up on the website. If it's gone to Australia Post, I presume it's in the plastic sleeves already.
I would expect.
So we can't
That's
insert.
going to cost us a fortune if
and
we...
have we notified the cross
It's going to reprint. It's going to
Is it
cost...
our fault?
I give the lacrosse club a call.
Mark, it will cost us 50,000.
Oh no, it won't cost that much, but I don't know the amount because we could. I don't know.
Leave it. Just
Look,
leave it.
I only found out about 4:30.
correction on the website, notify the lacrosse club, and
Apologise to them.
look, sorry,
Exactly.
up.
Yep.
I mean,
Oh, that's good. Right, that makes us see feel a bit better.
Get the girls on the... I want them to keep account how many people pick it up, because
Yeah.
36,
Free council rates for those who pick it up.
Okay, that's all I've got. That's the only problem I've got tonight. Has anyone got anything else to raise?
You should have some fun with it on the website.
I will do.
Have an apology.
Yeah.
Ask people too.
Just say brackets, French spelling.
Councillor Dixon never picked it up. Smack his hand.
Is there anything else?
Is that it, Mark?
I think we're done pretty much. Ginny just wanted to thank Councillor Dixon for his.
Yeah, I probably really need to thank Councillor Dixon for his help during the last few months, but I must actually do that because he has met with us 2-3 times a month, especially during the rating time in Tail and Win and Crook, and he still met with us and constantly checking on challenging our data as recent as today. And also the Mayor for helping us with how to communicate the message to graph how to better communicate to elected members. And I guess all elected members are being forgiving and patient when we make mistakes or when we have not provided the information at the time.
I'll just check, Ginny, are you providing actually a present or a gift?
Yes, I would like to declare one.
So make sure you put that on the register, please.
Look, I'd like to say, actually, I think Scott and I have been dealing with Brendan quite a bit over the last year. And I just thank Mark, that Brendan's been doing such a fantastic job in replacing Deb, and I think he should be given the director's job.
no copies from you.
Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, David.
Just a note on the front cover that the teams have, lacrosse has moved down there and are very excited. I think they won all their men's comp on the weekend. I put a little tweet on that. Try to retweet it in line with their rules. No. But the soccer club haven't moved in entirely, and there's perhaps a loss of momentum. Brendan, I'm not telling you things you don't know, but I'm just wondering if we can put a bit more pressure on them, because pretty soon it'll be cricket season and there's no kitchen and there's no bar in there, and if we ran our health inspectors down there, there might be a hairy eyebrow raised. And the clubs pulled that stuff out without approval on the basis that they'll be putting new stuff in, and they haven't yet. And I think you guys should be leaning on them a bit. So, you know, you get away with pulling it out on the basis that you're putting it back soon, not in a year's time.
Who took it out?
Both the clubs did a working bit.
Oh, I'd really have.
Easy to rip stuff out.
I know that. I only look at my place.
Okay, we'll follow up with
Starting and moving to the next room.
If everyone's happy, that's all we need to do with tonight, so thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Ginny. Thanks again.
Ginny.